You are watching A News. I'm Katie Wilson. Here are the top stories. Russia has conducted a large-scale missile and drone attack on Ukraine's energy and gas infrastructure. President Zelensky says talks between Ukraine and the US will be held in Saudi Arabia next week. SpaceX's Starship explodes in space, raining debris over the Caribbean. Russia has launched a large-scale missile and drone attack on Ukraine's energy and gas infrastructure, targeting facilities across multiple regions.
The large-scale missile and drone attack launched by Russia on the night of March 6th to 7th targeted Ukraine's energy and gas infrastructure across multiple regions. "67 missiles and 200 drones were launched, with Ukrainian air defences intercepting 34 missiles and downing 100 drones along with other UAVs. A mass drone attack on Odessa's outskirts damaged energy infrastructure, triggered fires and set at least 3 homes on fire. Waves of drones have swarmed on the city every night this week. Energy sites have been frequent targets and the attacks have triggered blackouts and disrupted water and heating services. Throughout the 3-year Russia's full-scale invasion, Odessa has been regularly attacked with a focus on its energy infrastructure and port facilities. Ukraine's energy minister, Herman Halushchenko, spoke on the matter and said that the recent attack damaged energy and gas infrastructure in various regions. Previously, Ukraine's largest private energy company, DTEK, announced that it has stopped gas production at its facilities in the central Poltava region, following significant damage from a Russian overnight attack. Naftogaz, Ukraine's giant oil and gas company, also reported that its facilities were damaged in the 17th attack since Russia's full-scale invasion. Production facilities vital for gas extraction were hit, though no casualties were reported. The ongoing situation in Ukraine is signalling potential gas supply limitations in certain areas. Ternopil Governor Vyacheslav Nehoda reported that a Russian attack targeted a critical industrial facility in the western region, raising concerns about possible disruptions in gas supplies. Meanwhile, the latest wave of Russian attacks also hit multiple civilian facilities, causing casualties. In Kharkiv, Russian forces struck a civilian enterprise, injuring at least 8 people. These recent attacks mark a shift in Russian strategy as their missile and drone strikes increasingly target Ukrainian gas storage facilities and production fields, moving away from previous focuses on the electricity sector.
US-Ukraine talks will be held in Saudi Arabia next week. President Volodymyr Zelensky says he hopes that it will be a meaningful meeting.
US-Ukrainian talks are set to be in Saudi Arabia on Monday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he'll be meeting with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and hopes the talks will be meaningful. He made the announcement on social media after an emergency meeting in Brussels with European leaders on Thursday. Zelensky says Kyiv is working very hard towards reaching lasting peace. On his Telegram account he wrote, "My visit to Saudi Arabia is scheduled for Monday, where I will meet with the Crown Prince. After that, my team will stay in Saudi Arabia to work with our American partners. Ukraine's top priority is achieving peace." This visit comes at a time when discussions are underway regarding a possible peace agreement to end the 3-year-long war between Ukraine and Russia. US President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, confirmed that negotiations on a peace framework are ongoing with Ukraine.
US President Donald Trump believes Russia and Ukraine both need to reach a peace agreement. Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, said on Thursday that he is in discussions with Ukraine for a peace agreement to end the war with Russia. A meeting is expected in the coming week as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will visit Saudi Arabia on Monday to meet with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
And when Zelensky inevitably comes back to the White House, what do you expect from him? And do you think you'll see him in a necktie?
Well, I think what's going to happen is Ukraine wants to make a deal because I don't think they have a choice. I also think that Russia wants to make a deal because in a different way that only I know, they have no choice either.
European Union leaders held emergency talks in Brussels on Thursday alongside Ukraine's President Zelensky to explore new ways to bolster their security and ensure future protection for Ukraine. It comes after US President Donald Trump's repeated warnings that he would cut them adrift, undermining 80 years of understanding that the US would help protect European nations. The leaders signed off on a move to loosen budget restrictions so that willing EU countries can increase their military spending. Our correspondent William Denslow has more from Brussels about the main outcomes of this emergency European summit.
Spend, spend, spend was the message from Mette Frederiksen, the Danish Prime Minister, heading in to this summit here in Brussels. That was a reference to plans for the European Union to take substantial action when it comes to ramping up its own defence capabilities. This week, the European Commission has unveiled its Rearm Europe plan that could see roughly $840 billion worth of funding freed up for the European Union's member states to spend on boosting its own defence capabilities. This has certainly been welcome news, not just here in Europe, but also in Washington. For a long time now, the Trump administration has complained that Europe is not doing its fair share when it comes to spending on defence or providing enough security guarantees for Ukraine. The issue of Ukraine also paramount at this meeting. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was in attendance. He said he discussed with EU member states issues like short-term support, things like more drones, more ammunition, more air missile defence systems to Ukraine. He also said they discussed the possibility of Ukraine joining the EU in the future. That has been an issue that's been rumbling around on the background for a long time now. Also being discussed was long-term security guarantees for Ukraine. Issues such as French President Emmanuel Macron's suggestion of bringing more European allies under France's nuclear umbrella. Also, the so-called coalition of the willing. This proposal that could see European peacekeepers potentially sent to Ukraine should a peace agreement be arranged. William Denslow, Brain News, Brussels.
Now, an unexploded bomb from World War II was discovered at the Gare du Nord train station in Paris this morning. The disruption has been affecting train journeys for the whole day.
The discovery of an unexploded bomb dating back to World War II disrupted train journeys to and from Paris's bustling Gare du Nord station on Friday. The 500-kilogram device was found in the middle of the tracks leading to the station in a suburb of the capital at Saint-Denis during overnight work. Meanwhile, as well as the Eurostar being halted to and from London, the disruption affected national and international routes elsewhere.
I'm going to Germany, to Cologne. I arrived at 5:30 and my train was at 7:45 and it was cancelled because supposedly there was a bomb. And I asked and they said it was Hitler's fault because he put bombs everywhere. And now we're waiting.
I've already heard it on the news that it happened sometimes that things like that were found. But we said to ourselves, we've had really bad luck here. It's a pretty weird situation.
People in homes within a 500-meter radius were evacuated. Passengers were told they could exchange their tickets for a free one for another date.
A military training exercise in South Korea took a dangerous turn on Thursday when 2 fighter jets accidentally dropped bombs on a civilian area, injuring 29 people. The incident has sparked public outrage, with protesters demanding an end to such drills.
South Koreans took to the streets on Friday to demand an immediate halt to military drills following an Air Force training mishap that caused serious injuries and destruction. Protests took place in Pocheon, a city near the North Korean border, where activists and residents voiced their concerns over the ongoing exercises. The South Korean Defense Ministry confirmed on Friday that 15 civilians and 14 soldiers were injured after 2 KF-16 fighter jets mistakenly dropped 8 Mk-82 air-to-surface bombs on Pocheon, located about 40 kilometers northeast of Seoul. The explosions destroyed 2 residential buildings, damaged a church, and wrecked a truck. The South Korean Air Force has apologized for the abnormal bomb release and promised compensation for the damages. In response, all live-fire exercises have been suspended and authorities have launched an investigation into the incident. The South Korean Air Force attributed the accident to pilot error, with incorrect bombing coordinates entered into the system. However, officials have not ruled out a possible technical malfunction. Despite the incident, military authorities confirmed that the large-scale joint U.S.-South Korea Freedom Shield drills will proceed as scheduled on March 10th. North Korea condemned the drills, accusing Washington and Seoul of violating its sovereignty and warning of severe consequences.
The US has once again suspended the 25% tariffs imposed on most goods from Canada and Mexico until the 2nd of April. It's amid global trade tensions and alarm amongst American consumers.
US President Donald Trump has paused the 25% tariff hikes on Canada and Mexico until the 2nd of April, in the latest twist in a fluctuating trade policy. It's the second time Trump has suspended the tax increases on imports from America's biggest 2 trade partners. The increase measures created uncertainty for businesses and worried financial markets. Washington argues the increases were to curb fentanyl entering into the states. Claudia Sheinbaum says Mexico has already cracked down on top cartel bosses in recent weeks and pledges to work with the US. Trump has credited Mexico's president for making progress on illegal immigration and drug smuggling. Claudia Sheinbaum thanks Trump for what she called a respectful conversation on Thursday.
This agreement is valid until April 2nd. Remember that he announced that on April 2nd, he is going to announce tariffs to all the countries in the world. So he places Mexico within that international agreement or the decision he is going to make. More than agreement, because it is their decision, but he puts us within, just like any other country in the world, not with what he was doing now that finally excluded us.
Sheinbaum also announced that a planned rally in Mexico City's Zocalo Square, initially intended to address the tariff situation, would now be a celebratory festival. As important trade partners, the US and Mexico rely on cross-border commerce, particularly in industries like auto manufacturing, supported by the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement.
The United States should not return good with evil or even impose arbitrary tariffs. That's according to Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. He made the comment after Washington imposed additional tariffs on Chinese goods, using the fentanyl issue as pretext. Washington says Beijing hasn't done enough to tackle the flow of the drug into America. However, China's foreign minister says the US must address its fentanyl crisis independently and urged Washington not to respond with hostility. US President Donald Trump says he plans to visit Saudi Arabia in the next 6 weeks to finalise a $1 trillion investment deal, which includes military purchases. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump recalled his 2017 visit to Riyadh, when Saudi commitments totaled $350 billion. Trump says that at his request, Saudi Arabia agreed to invest over 4 years, benefiting American companies. Beyond economic ties, Saudi Arabia is playing an increasing role in US foreign policy. In a dramatic escalation of diplomatic tensions, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation is set to formally condemn President Trump's Gaza Riviera proposal. A News has exclusively obtained a confidential draft resolution which firmly backs Egypt's competing vision for Gaza's future.
The classified document, marked very urgent and dated March 6, 2025, reveals plans for an emergency meeting of OIC foreign ministers today in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The 57-member Islamic bloc will vote on a strongly worded resolution that categorically rejects any attempt to relocate Palestinians from Gaza. The draft resolution, obtained exclusively by A News, describes Trump's proposed relocation of Gazans as ethnic cleansing and a grave violation of international law and a crime against humanity under the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. In a direct challenge to the US position, the document explicitly endorses Egypt's $53 billion reconstruction plan for Gaza. The same blueprint that received backing at this week's high-profile Cairo summit, attended by key Arab nations. The OIC welcomes the plan presented by the Arab Republic of Egypt, in full coordination with the State of Palestine and the Arab states. The draft resolution states, urging the international community and international and regional funding institutions to swiftly provide the necessary support. Egypt's competing vision, as previously reported, would keep Gaza's 2 million Palestinians in their homeland while rebuilding infrastructure destroyed during 15 months of conflict. The plan includes clearing 50 million tons of rubble, constructing temporary housing, and eventually developing sustainable communities with renewable energy, an airport and seaports. What makes this diplomatic confrontation particularly significant is the involvement of nations that normalized relations with Israel through the Abraham Accords during Trump's first term. These countries are now aligning against his Gaza proposal. The draft resolution also reveals plans for an international conference in Cairo as soon as possible to coordinate Gaza's reconstruction and establish a trust fund for recovery projects. It calls for creating a separate fund to support approximately 40,000 orphaned children in Gaza and providing prosthetics to thousands of amputees, specifically referencing Jordan's Restoring Hope initiative. In its most forceful language, the document characterizes Trump's proposal as an attempt to liquidate the Palestinian cause and mobilizes international pressure to counter it. The resolution also supports the upcoming international conference on the two-state solution, to be held at UN headquarters in New York in June 2025, chaired by Saudi Arabia and France. The OIC document extends beyond Gaza to address regional tensions, condemning Israeli actions in Lebanon and Syria while calling for implementation of existing ceasefire agreements. As diplomatic battles intensify over Gaza's future, this exclusive document provides unprecedented insight into the unified opposition forming against President Trump's controversial vision for the territory and its people.
The Qatargate corruption scandal that rocked the European Parliament in 2022 has taken a new turn. The Belgian Federal Prosecutor's Office has requested the lifting of parliamentary immunity for 2 Italian socialist MEPs. This request will be reviewed during the upcoming plenary session in Strasbourg on March the 10th.
The Belgian Federal Prosecutor's Office has asked the European Parliament to lift the immunity of 2 Italian socialist members of Parliament, Elisabetta Gualmini and Alessandra Moretti, as part of the ongoing Qatargate investigation. The request, confirmed by the federal prosecutor and reported by Le Soir on Tuesday, expands the probe into allegations that Qatar and Morocco attempted to buy political influence within EU institutions. Qatargate erupted in December 2022 when Belgian authorities seized nearly 1.5 million euros in cash during raids targeting those suspected of accepting bribes to influence EU policy positions favorable to certain Gulf and North African states. The investigation has already implicated several high-profile figures, including former European Parliament Vice President Eva Kaili from Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats, former MEP and non-governmental organization head Pier Antonio Panzeri, who struck a plea deal with prosecutors in 2023, and ex-MEPs Andrea Cozzolino and Mark Tarabella, all from S&D. Although no formal charges have been brought against Moretti and Gualmini, investigators identified their names in communications uncovered during the early stages of the investigation. The allegations center on a suspected network that reportedly channeled money and gifts to influence EU positions, particularly regarding human rights issues. The immunity request will be officially announced by Parliament President Roberta Metsola during the plenary session in Strasbourg on March 10th. Following this announcement, the Committee on Legal Affairs will assess the evidence presented by Belgian authorities before making a recommendation to the full Parliament on whether to lift the MEP's immunity. Neither Moretti nor Gualmini has commented publicly on the request. In a related development, several defense lawyers representing those already charged in the case have challenged the investigation's procedures. The Court of Indictments has scheduled hearings on these procedural challenges for March 18th, 25th, and April 22nd, which could potentially affect how the broader case, including these new immunity requests, proceeds.
Kyrgyzstan has exchanged land parcels with Tajikistan as part of border delimitation efforts in areas previously plagued by periodic conflicts. Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov stated in an interview with the state news agency that the land exchange was not driven by strategic goals, but by the need to eliminate tension in disputed zones. Japarov stated that the land exchange focused only on areas where conflicts had repeatedly occurred. He explained that the exchanged lands were either enclaves or arranged in a checkerboard pattern along the border. The president insisted that the border issue with Tajikistan had been permanently resolved, and the final decision was made with consideration for both sides' interests. Turkey's leading drone manufacturer and Italy's defence giant have signed a partnership agreement in unmanned technologies. Baykar Technologies and Leonardo will produce combat aerial vehicles in both countries.
After a month of intensive negotiations, Turkey and Italy have agreed on a deal to produce unmanned combat drones together. Production between Baykar Technologies and Leonardo will take place in both Turkey and Italy. The agreement was signed at Leonardo's headquarters in Rome by its chief executive Roberta Cingolani, Baykar's chairman Selçuk Bayraktar, and CEO Haluk Bayraktar. The two companies project that the European unmanned aerial vehicle market will reach $100 billion within the next decade. Bayraktar says the complementary strength of both companies and their combined expertise will allow them to develop the best systems together. Cingolani described the day as significant, underscoring the importance of the Memorandum of Understanding with Baykar. Baykar Technologies, known for producing advanced unmanned combat aerial vehicles such as the Bayraktar TB2 and Akıncı, has been expanding its footprint in Italy. In December, Baykar acquired Italian aerospace company Piaggio.
Elon Musk's SpaceX lost contact with its Starship rocket in space on Thursday during its 8th test mission. It's the company's second consecutive Starship failure this year. The 403-foot rocket lifted off from Boca Chica in Texas, successfully returning its booster to Earth. But minutes later, the upper stage began tumbling uncontrollably before SpaceX confirmed the loss of signal. Social media showed debris in the sky as far as Florida, prompting temporary airport shutdowns. This failure raises questions about SpaceX's ambitious timeline for deep space missions. Tech giant Microsoft is making a major investment in South Africa, expanding its artificial intelligence and data center infrastructure. The company aims to meet the increasing demand for its Azure services in the region.
Microsoft Vice Chair and President Brad Smith has announced a new investment of $300 million into South Africa's AI and data center infrastructure. Speaking at an event in Johannesburg, Smith emphasized the company's commitment to expanding its presence in the region.
We are investing more money to expand our AI and data center infrastructure here in South Africa. We're going to expand on the 20 billion rand we have spent with a new investment of 5.4 billion rand. This will build out and provide even more data center capacity.
As part of its expansion, Microsoft has pledged to fund technical certification exams for 50,000 individuals. The certifications will cover high-demand skills, including cloud architecture, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. Microsoft has already invested $1.3 billion to establish South Africa's first enterprise-grade data centers in Johannesburg and Cape Town. The country has become a critical hub for AI-driven infrastructure as companies worldwide continue to integrate AI into their products and services.
It's 25 years since one of the world's most iconic landmarks, the London Eye, was opened. The Ferris wheel has become a symbol of the UK capital and a popular attraction for millions of visitors over the years.
The London Eye is about to reach an impressive milestone, marking 25 years since its opening. Positioned along the south bank of the River Thames, the Millennium Wheel has welcomed more than 85 million visitors, becoming a staple of London's skyline. When it was first opened to the public in 2000, it was the tallest Ferris wheel in the world at a height of 135 meters and with a diameter of 120 meters. Designed by architects Julia Barfield and the late David Marks, the iconic structure was born from a vision they crafted together in their Stockwell kitchen in 1993 for a competition. Despite their submission not winning, the duo remained committed to bringing their idea to life.
It was a wheel because it was celebrating the millennium, so it was a kind of a symbol of time. So a circle has no beginning, no end. It is the symbolic of the passing of time, but also the cycles of life. So it was very much generated by the millennium. And, you know, at that time, so we started it in 1993, there was nowhere really that where you could see London from a height. You could climb, I think, 365 steps to the top of St Paul's, but that was really the only place. And the idea was very much about celebrating London.
What was initially intended to be a temporary structure has become a permanent fixture. It was granted a permanent license in 2002, and last year its status as a long-term landmark was confirmed.
Since the year 2000, there's been over 85 million people that have come onto our pods. We see roughly, on a really busy day, especially during summer, we see roughly 18,000 people a day, which is an incredible number.
It has been featured in countless films and television shows, and it has witnessed more than 8,000 marriage proposals. 1% of ticket sales is donated back into the local community. This contribution has helped fulfill one of Barfield's key ambitions for the wheel, to regenerate the South Bank.
Thanks for joining us. Keep watching A News for the latest, and we'll be back before you know it.